So we got an MGB here with a broken captive nut here where the convertible top mounts to the body. Not an overly uncommon issue, and we're going to show you how to fix it. So the screws that the factory put in these were 1 3/4, quarter 28 or UNF, countersunk with posi drive head, and then they were tapered a little bit on the ends. That way it makes it easier when you go through there to actually find the hole and get it to start. So I usually keep these around that I take off of cars that I'm parting out and stuff, just in case I need one here and there to replace one when I'm working, but I don't have enough to replace everything on this car. I only have like 2 or 3 of them right now, which means I would need to order some, and I'm in between orders with Moss right now, which I am a Moss distributor, so that's where I would normally get this stuff. But of course with Moss, if you're just ordering say 6 screws, shipping's gonna kind of kill you on a little tiny order like that. Now, good luck finding these at your local hardware store here in the US. You're not gonna find exactly this, but you can get close. If you wanna get the exact correct screws, places like Moss obviously stock them. But if you don't want to wait on Moss and you want to get them locally, you go to a mom and pop store. Don't go to like Home Depot. You're not going to find anything that's going to work there. If you do happen to, they're going to be slotted, not Phillips or anything. But you can get any place that has a good like Hillman section with all the drawers will usually have something, but they're not going to be 1 3/4. You're either going to find 1.5 and Phillips head, not posi drive, or you're going to find 2-inch. Now either size will actually work. The 1.5 being a little shorter means when you go to put the top on, it won't stick out quite as far out the back of the top frame. So when you're trying to look to see where your holes are, you're just not going to have as much room there to see what you're doing, and you have to do more feel, but they will be long enough to work. Or you can use 2-inch ones. And the nice thing about 2-inch ones is then you can go ahead and cut them off if you want, and you can bevel them if you want, and all that stuff. But if you do decide to bevel them, what you do is go ahead and run a nut down on it, bevel the end, and then run the nut back off of it. And when you run the nut back off, it'll take the burr and push the burr out. Then you can file that burr off, and it should be no problem to then use it in the body of the car. I want to get this thing done sooner than I can actually get screws from Moss. So if you're someone like me who can't just drop and run to the hardware store, every time you need a little screw, you can just order them from Amazon, which is what I did. I will go ahead and link in the description both the 1.5 and the 2-inch size for those who would rather just order them that way. Make it easier for you, because let's face it, Amazon's not super easy to search through the bolts and find the one you're looking for. Now, this particular car does have one of these broken completely out right here, but we have more issues on this particular car than just that. Now, how do you fix this? Well, Moss makes a little kit here. Now, if you're good with a welder, there's all kinds of different things you can do to fix this, and you can get creative. But if you don't have that, this makes a nice easy fix. It's part number 472328. Comes with a little plate, a machine screw to hold it in place, and instructions. So you can put this plate on the back side of it. Now the plate's made so you got all 3 holes and then the hole to hold it to the body. Then you can go ahead, if you only have 1 broken out, or if you have 2 broken out, and you don't want to do all 3 of them, then you can just take a hacksaw or a cut-off wheel and cut off what you don't need. So you can just end up with just this one little piece here like this to put in there to fix that, or 2 of them, whichever you need. But in our case, somebody had went to the hardware store, didn't find the fine thread, went ahead and bought coarse thread, quarter 20s, and then tapped these out quarter 20. You don't ever want to do that, because Once you tap it through there, there's not much thread left, so you end up with a really loose thread, not much holding it. And when you have a really loose thread that's not holding it much, they're really easy to strip out. And of the ones that are left, I think 2 or 3 of them are stripped out to where you can just push the screw right on through. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to actually take these weld nuts out of here, and then we're going to go ahead and put the whole plate in, use all 3 holes. Now, there's going to be a little trick to that, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But we'll start off with how you actually install these things. You want a line straight up from here and straight across from here to find the center point to drill that hole. Alternatively, you can get in here and do a very good job lining this up. It helps if you're inside the car. And then if you get it really lined up really well, then you can just scribe through there, and you got your mark there. They suggest going ahead and drilling these at 5/16. Now you only have a 1/4 inch screw going through there, but 5/16 gives you plenty of adjustment in case you drill it slightly off center. So these weld nuts that are actually in the back side of these things, they are actually nuts, 6-sided, but they're an odd size. They actually 17/32, or in metric it'd be 13.5 millimeters. Now while 32nd size sockets do exist, yeah, who's got those around? So what you can do is you take either a 14 millimeter socket or a 9/16 socket. 14 millimeters slightly smaller, but make sure it is 6-point, not a 12-point socket. Okay? Then you can get up in here, get a hold of the back side of this nut, and try to pull up or down, whichever way you want to push, carefully, and keep even pressure on it, because you will twist this if you don't keep even pressure. And you can just break that nut right out of there. Of course, if you got to get to the front one, that one's quite difficult, but these two, not very hard to get to. So now we'll come in here and we'll go ahead and drill that hole, and then we'll go and flatten all this stuff out, because this will have bent a little bit around the holes when you break those out. And when it was busted out initially, whichever one was busted out on your car, it was probably going to be bent around that anyway. So you need to get in there and kind of a hammer and dolly and flatten all that stuff out so this plate sits there nice and evenly on it. So you need to be careful when drilling these out. If you're going to use a straight drill bit, then you should use a drill stop, which is basically a clamp that goes around the drill bit to limit how far the drill bit can go through, so that you don't go all the way through and say dink the back side here and end up with a small dent coming out on the side of your car. Or alternatively, step drill bits. They can be really handy for stuff like this. Because once you hit that step of where you know you want to be, you can stop. Now they suggest putting a quick coat of paint on the bracket so that it doesn't rust. And I just used some silver paint that I had that's quick drying. You put that back in on the back side. Don't drop the screw. Put the screw in here, and then you tighten it up and make sure these 3 are lined up really nicely. And then the installation there would be complete. And then you need to come back in here with the panel and put the bracket on top of here and mark through there. So you can go ahead and then mark a bigger hole here that's a little bit bigger than the head of the screw, and you're going to have to get that out of the backing and try not to screw up the front of it. Of course, this one's not the greatest shape to start with, but that way you have clearance for the head of the bolt. So with this kit, it really is just as easy as that. I know some people don't really care for moss these days, but Moss is really good about coming up with stuff like this for us.